What's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So, what are we calling this? The Talk with Tequila? Or
we could also do Tequila Thursdays, Tequila Tuesdays.
I want to
something
involve.
like
I want to involve investing in real estate in some way.
that. Okay.
I don't know how. Titty
and tequila.
Tuesdays.
Huh?
Titty Tuesdays. What starts with a T that has to do with real estate or investing?
Well, there's taxes, but that doesn't.
No, fuck that. Not taxes and tequila. Even though it's a good ring now. No way. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, the name doesn't matter so
Yeah.
much right now, but
It's all right. So, anyways, let's introduce ourselves. Let's kind of give a background,
Sure.
about you, me, and how we got started and stuff. And go ahead.
so my name's Kyle Novak. I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing for about 4 years. I do some fix and flips, wholesaling, direct to seller marketing, and I buy and hold single family and small multifamilies. And basically I invest in other things as well, crypto, stocks, e-com, basically any business that I see makes the best return, and try to be a little diversified.
Good shit, man. 4 years. I mean, you made a pretty solid name for yourself in 4 years. I mean, we're fucking sitting here doing a podcast, video, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we're doing something, right? You know what I mean? That's good shit. My name's Danny Nicolino, so kind of echo Kyle on pretty much everything except for the time frame we've been involved in real estate. Mine's a little bit shorter, about 2.5 years. Really been involved. I was a YouTube student for a year before that, probably just kind of curious. My drives to work, watching YouTube videos, just learning the game a little bit. But then I decided to push myself and take the first leap, and here we are. So, again, invest in a lot of, mainly rentals and wholesaling, flipping. That's like the primary avenue for real estate. But beyond that, stock market, e-commerce now that Kyle wrote me into. But hopefully a really profitable business. Pretty much if there's an upside and limited downside, I'm in. So that's the name of the game.
I would say we're similar in that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't know many people that are.
Right, exactly. I mean, at least in our network, which is
Right.
fortunate. And that's also why we're doing this. We want to partner with other people. We want to grow. We want to show what we do, and that way we can expose everything we do, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, and build that connection relationship with you, the viewer. That way we can grow our network and hopefully at some point in time do deals together or some way add value to you and you to us at some point in time. So that's the name of the game. So we came into this for this first video, just wanted to talk through some topics in real estate, just to kind of get the ball rolling, just to start throwing some content out there for people to understand, and start learning just like we did. So I kind of talked about how I got started. Just started watching YouTube. Then eventually I took a class on investing, which was in my opinion, I wouldn't say a waste of money, but it was a lot of money. And everything you could ever want to know about investing in real estate or pretty much anything is available for free, either in books or online. YouTube University is out there, and but how hard do you want to work for it? For me at the time, the cost of buying an education product was better because I wanted to shorten that time frame.
Yep.
So that was how I got started, and then eventually got a mentor and started grinding. What about you, Kyle? How did you actually get started?
I got started. I build power lines for a living, so I'm a lineman. So it's very blue collar work. I didn't go to college. I just went to a trade school, started building power lines really young. That's worked out for me, fortunately, but I realized pretty quickly I didn't want to do that forever. So I literally Googled how to quit my job, and I found biggerpockets.com, which is a great resource.
Awesome.
I mean,
awesome fucking resource.
I mean, that's changed over the years. I mean, when I got on it, it was still kind of small, but now, I mean, it's the biggest real estate related forum, and kind of education platform out there. So, I mean, if you're even somewhat interested in real estate, I would absolutely go to biggerpockets.com. But that's where I got started. So I did the same thing then. I would just watch Bigger Pockets podcast of something like this. Two guys that are experienced in real estate. They bring on a guest that has some sort of background in real estate or investing or whatever the topic is that day. And they just have a talk about it. And basically this just gives you so many, when you bring on a guest, it just gives you so many different perspectives of how to invest, because there's a million different ways. So like, me and you do things a certain way. That's not the only way. It may not be the right way for someone else.
Even us, even we do things differently.
Yep.
Which is totally fine.
Bringing on a guest, maybe from especially a different area or a different state, can really just kind of give the audience a wide variety of options and education, really. But yeah, I just got started on Bigger Pockets, started networking. Like they say, I mean, your network is your net worth, and I truly believe that.
Cliche as fuck, but it is so true.
Yep. So I got on Bigger Pockets, watched videos, started reaching out to people, just DMing them on Bigger Pockets, see if I could take them to coffee or lunch or whatever, because that's all I knew to do at the time.
Right.
And I found out about house hacking, so I bought a duplex.
Huge. Yep. Yeah,
I bought a duplex on the MLS in 2017. That's when I got my first property and got an FHA loan, 3.5% down. I think I paid like $125 for it, and put $7,000 down, $8,000 at total closing, and was able to get into a place and live for free. And then I've done that 3 more times since then, and yeah. Then with networking, I learned about all these off-market deals and raising private capital to fund all the deals, to not use any of your own money. And then, yeah, the networking really changed the game, because that's how you find contractors, lawyers, accountants, deals, private money lenders, tons of stuff. So, and from there, it's kind of just been snowballing. But I mean, really, this last year, 2021, is when me and my partner Rocco went direct to seller, off market, and really started actually like trying to have a business with a marketing, and we have
hired someone. Right?
Yep, we have a full-time person now. We had a couple part-time people before, but we have a full-time salary position, plus commission, and a couple part-time VAs. So yeah, this year was really like, I've been in it 4 years, but the first 2 years were kind of just getting comfortable, learning, networking, and now it's like I have the tools and the education to really do something. So yeah, I'm even more excited for next year. So
yeah, next year's gonna be a big year for, I think, both of us for sure. Yep. I just want to unpack some of what you said there, because there's a shitload of stuff that you just glazed over that I'm sure a beginning viewer, someone that's experienced in real estate is going to understand everything you just said. Mm-hmm. But someone that's just starting out isn't necessarily going to understand half of, or maybe anything that you just said. Hopefully they do go to a established podcast like Bigger Pockets to learn, there's tons of previous content. However, they just want to touch on one point before we even start to unpack that stuff, is that, I'm not saying that our podcast is going to be the best or the worst or whatever. We're real people, and we probably relate a little bit more closely to a lot of people that are watching, because we're just 2 kids growing up in, we're both, you're 27, right? Yeah, I'm 27. So, we're both growing up in Cleveland area, Ohio. Okay. And, we don't have, millions of dollars, we don't, so a lot of the big name podcasts, not that there's anything wrong, that's how you grow, right? But that's, they make a lot of their money from podcasts and stuff now. They didn't before. But it's hard to relate, with some of those people sometimes. They're great people, especially I'm going to name, we talk about Bigger Pockets. Everyone on there, I've never seen anyone bad, that says anything bad or wrong. They do a great job, but they're huge. So sometimes it's harder to relate with some of those. So we're real people. We intend to bring on real people, young investors that are not just starting out, but maybe had a year, 2 years, 3 years experience and have done really well. So we can, start teaching you what to do and take those first steps, because that's really what's important. Once you get the momentum going, as long as you keep it going, it's like a fucking train. It's not going to stop. But the key is to keep that momentum going. So to circle back and start trying to unpack a little bit of what Kyle said there. you mentioned house hacking.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about house hacking and what that is. How did you hear about it, and then walk me through the process of that, because that's how I got started. It's how I bought my first property as well. So how did you find the deal? How did you analyze it? How did you even hear about the concept? What is the concept? So unpack that.
So I mean, we're in my house hack right now. I mean, I'm still house hack to this day.
Right? Yeah.
But basically, I found it on BiggerPockets. It's basically just the term of buying a property. You can do it with a single family, but then you rent out the rooms. Basically, it's just getting roommates of some sort to pay for your mortgage, property taxes, insurance, however that looks. Basically, just sharing housing, especially on the single family side. Now, what I do is I always buy duplexes or triplexes. So I actually have my own unit. Obviously, they're attached, but yeah, basically every deal I've done house hacking wise is I buy a duplex. If my mortgage and taxes and insurance is $1,000, I've been able to rent the other side for $1,000 a month. So that I basically live for free. Yep. Right. I pay utilities or whatever. So I'm not paying rent, and the tenant is still paying down my mortgage. Tons of other benefits we won't have to get into. But basically, I learned about house hacking through BiggerPockets. And the other good thing about house hacking is you get to use good bank financing since you're going to live there. Mm-hmm. So it's something people will find out later is as you start to just buy investment properties with banks, if your intention is an investment property, you're not going to get the best interest rate or best terms on that loan. So that's one of the benefits to house hacking is because you're living there, even if it's a multifamily, you can get a normal 30-year fixed low rate mortgage. The best mortgage you can get.
Yeah, and it can be leveraged more because it's your personal residence. Yep. So you can get into the property at a really low down payment. Because if you're starting out, cash isn't usually of abundance of most people that are just starting out in the investing world. Ideally it is, right? You have some cash to throw around, that's great. But if you want to get into a house for, call it $100,000 duplex, you can get into that property for as low as like $3,500 bucks. Mm-hmm. So, minus plus a little bit, closing costs here and there, you might get some seller credits or whatever. Not going to get into that. We talk about stuff and we start throwing terms out there. I got to stop doing that. But at the end of the day, you can get into a property really, really cheap. And, it's not all fun and games. It's not, Candyland, rainbows, and unicorn poop. Pretty much, like, you still have to be a landlord, right? So now, instead of being a tenant and having everything done for you and you just call your management company or whatever and say, hey, like the shit broke, like you got to fix it. Now that's your job. And the difficulty is that now you have to take responsibility of not only your own home ownership, but whoever's living next to you. Mm-hmm. And it really starts grooming you, but it's a great, I say safe is relative, but it's a relatively
it's the easiest way to start.
It's a relatively safe and easy way to start. Yep. You get to network with contractors to come in and fix your stuff. And I highly recommend doing that. Run it like a business. It isn't. It's your primary residence, but run it like a business because then once you start to grow and scale, you'll have the experience you need. Even if you have to pay a little bit more. Like you could fix something, that's fine, but you know what it costs then, right? So go hire a contractor to do it. Get that experience networking and negotiating with contractors, etc., just to go fix the plumbing. And unless it's an emergency, you know how to do it, whatever, do it. But point is, it's a great learning experience for you. So house hacking across the board is huge.
Yep, huge. It's a great way to get started. Like you said, you can pay a little more for a property if you're going to house hack it because you're getting high leverage. You need a place to live anyway, and you're getting great terms on it. So your payment's going to be lower than if I were to go buy it as an investment. Yeah. So yeah.
And I talk about high leverage, and you got to be careful with that. But the nice thing about having that, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, protected mortgages essentially. A, you have mortgage insurance, but B, the key here is there's an appraiser that comes out and appraises your property, and if it doesn't appraise for what you're buying it for, if FHA, you literally have to lower the price. You can't buy it for more than it's worth. I'm pretty sure with FHA. So you're not going to like overpay necessarily. You might pay full market value at the time. But remember, even if the market goes down, it's your primary residence, you intend to stay there. If it's a duplex, you can always rent it out. you're in a safer, relatively safe position than if you just went and bought a single family home at 20% down and the market went down, then you lost all your equity. You owe more than you sell, and if you rent it out, you're really not making any money, if maybe even breaking even on a single family, typically, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're paying full market value for a single family house versus full market value for a duplex or triplex, normally the duplex or triplex is going to cash flow better.
Right,
no matter what.
exactly. Typically, not everywhere,
yeah.
but typically.
It's such a great way to start. I mean, you're hands-on, you're right there. I mean, and I've noticed tenants normally kind of behave a little better
with you there
yeah. when they know you live next door. And sometimes I don't tell them I'm the landlord. But
so I'm saying there's a couple ways to go about that.
There's two ways to play that. But yeah. So house hacking is a great way. I've done it multiple times. And it's basically landlording with training wheels on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a perfect place to start. And if you haven't done that yet, you really should. Mm-hmm. But some people don't have the luxury of they have a family, right?
Yep.
Maybe they have kids, or are about to have kids. They may not have the luxury of buying a duplex because they just don't have enough space.
Yeah.
So in that position, there's a few things you can do to get started. One of which is, and I say this slightly because wholesaling, and it's wholesaling, and the reason I say that is there's low capital needed to get started. However, to be successful, you're going to need capital. So Kyle does a lot of wholesale deals. I'll let him talk a little bit more about wholesaling. I'm going to make sure the camera's on.
Do you want me to put him away so he's not chewing in the corner? Howdy, come on. Howdy, come on.
That cracks me up.
Come on.
You're messing with him. It's okay. You didn't do anything bad. So another avenue, after you're done house hacking, right? You could start looking to be a real, I call it real, right? But investments. You're looking at real investment properties, doing deals beyond a primary residence, and that's when I'd really consider you're in the game, right? So to touch on some of that, I'm gonna let Kyle talk about wholesaling because that's pretty much his next step, was going from house hacking to wholesaling. Am I right? Is that kind of...
No.
Well, then how'd it go? Tell me how it went.
So basically, I bought the house hack. I learned about off-market deals. I started networking with people. I met a lot of kind of older investors in my market, and basically, I just bought the deals they were kind of getting rid of. Yeah.
Okay.
And I bought. So the first year I bought that first deal, and then the next year I bought 8 more, just houses in a lower market. And I used private money and contractors. So basically, I skipped the do-it-yourself stuff like pretty quick. Like I did my first house hack.
Yeah.
I swung the hammer. I fixed everything up, and then after that, I haven't swung a hammer since then. I hired the contractors out that I met through networking. I bought the deals. These are $40,000-$50,000 houses.
Yeah.
That I was getting for $10,000-$15,000, and
right.
So I was just using private money that I met through networking to pay for it, and because I was 23, 24 at the time, I mean I didn't have that much money, and yeah, so I bought those, did the landlording a little bit, and then I hired a property management company right away too, and they took care of all that. So I really was just collecting, a decent amount of cash flow.
A little bit of mailbox money.
Yep. And then, even you can either, I still needed a business to generate cash. So I still wanted the fastest, that's not the fastest way out of your job. I could have kept buying houses, a handful a year, using private money, refinancing them, and, make a couple $100 on each house.
Yep.
You get to 50 of them, okay, you can quit your job. And then, but that's going to take a while, or you're going to have to do a lot of work. And then basically some of these houses I bought were from wholesalers. Mm-hmm. And these were people I met on Facebook or networking events who are basically, a wholesaler is basically the deal finder. They're going to find the deal and then sell it to you, and they make a spread in between that. And basically I found that is a great way to make cash, and then I can invest in stocks or crypto or whatever I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Either way, that's a true business.
It's a cash generation vehicle. It's a way to generate cash as opposed to just recurring income.
Yeah. You're not so much the
Chunks of
investor
cash.
in that way. You're more of kind of the self-employed.
Yeah,
if that makes
you're
sense.
essentially middleman, but in wholesaling.
Yep. And yeah, and basically I just decided to do that because it's a good way to generate cash, and I still got to pick all the deals I wanted.
Right.
Because I'm the deal finder, so
right. You can cherry pick the good ones.
Yep, I cherry pick the best deals to keep as rentals for myself, and I will wholesale everything else off, or flip it, or whatever we decide.
Whatever makes sense, right?
Yep, and that's kind of as you go down the path of your investing journey, you basically put different tools in the tool belt of what you can do. Some people start off wholesaling and they'd have no money or no capital or no access to capital and no contractors. So
they have time. They have time. They
Yep.
can find deals. They've learned how to find deals.
And that's a great way to start.
Great way to start.
But as you start to be able to raise money, okay, now I can close on the deal
Right.
and flip it if I want, or just relist on the MLS or rent it. As you put those different things, now you have all the options with the house, basically.
Right.
But yeah, wholesaling in a nutshell is basically the deal finder. You go find a good deal, you middleman a transaction, and sell it to another investor for a certain spread that you make, and whatever the investor is willing to pay.
Right. And just to kind of be clear on that, because just to unpack, so we're saying a lot here that, to a new viewer might be a lot. So when we say wholesale, essentially what we're saying is that you find a deal, get it under contract. Okay, so you buy a house, you have to use a contract, purchase the house. Okay, so you get under contract, and say it doesn't work out for you, or it's not necessarily your type of deal, or maybe you can have the intention of assigning it to somebody else. That's no problem. The key is that you kind of wanted this property, and it's a good deal, right? And you may or may not close on it, but then you find somebody else who wants it more and is willing to pay more for it. You can assign them that contract for a fee. And essentially that is wholesaling in a nutshell, just to make it real simple. Would you agree?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a great way to get started for someone who has time, and maybe not a ton of capital, but has a good network, people they can partner with or whatever. Obviously the proverbial flip of a house, right? That's a very, very, you see the shows on TV. Another great way to get started, as long as you have a little bit of credit, because you can easily get a loan to pay for the purchase and the rehab of the property. You just have to have a little bit of experience or a partner with experience to let that person be willing to give you some cash, typically. If it's a low value property, you really don't have to worry about that too much. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where you get into hard money and private money. So Kyle talked about private money a little bit ago. I just mentioned hard money. Hard money is essentially asset-based lending. So the lender is looking at the asset they're lending against only. It's all they really should look at. Nowadays, they do look at your credit score, and they do look at you as a borrower. It's more of a blended type of lending, but asset-based lending is really what hard money lending is. So what they're concerned about is if they have to take this property back, will it cover the amount of money and sell it? Will it cover the amount of money they gave you plus some, or whatever that, for that lender, they have their different specifications that they lend to. Now, that's hard money lending. So you could go get a loan for a house, say it costs $25,000 to buy it, and you maybe need to put $25,000 into it. That's $50,000 cost basis. You could sell it for, call it $150,000. Okay, you can make
screaming deal.
Screaming deal. You can make $100,000 right there. Okay. Now, obviously, there's other small costs in there, like closing costs and everything, but the big numbers work out to where you could sell it for $100,000. You only got $50,000 into it. A hard money lender is going to lend to you at least 70% of that after repair value. So 70% of $150,000. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty solid, because that gives you enough money to fix it up and to buy it and fix it up. And then you won't have to ever put a penny of your own money into the deal, hopefully, as long as you don't screw it up. nothing ever goes on time and on budget, so definitely make sure you account for that. But you know, that's one really good way to do deals without a ton of your own capital in it. You
A
want to
lot
talk
of
about the
times they
difference between?
do. I mean, I was just going to add to the
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
money thing. A lot of times they do require some sort of down payment.
Sometimes, yeah.
So like, if they do 70% of the ARV, they'll make you put down 10% of that 70% they were going to give you.
Sometimes they'll do
you know.
10%. Sometimes they'll make you put 10 grand down.
Yeah,
Like it's just
sometimes-
like
it's
a
all
flat.
different,
It's
but
all. Yeah.
A lot of times, hard money makes you have some sort of skin in the game. And then the other downside is obviously you're paying high fees,
High
and
interest.
and points and all that stuff. But if you get a good enough deal, it doesn't really matter. It's a great way to start. There's a tons of huge institutions and companies that do hard money lending, so they're much easier to find, which is different than private money. Do you want me to dive into
Yeah,
that?
diving
then?
into private. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So private money is kind of the holy grail of the whole thing, of where it's truly a private loan. So it's, I meet Danny on the street, says, "Hey, how you doing?" And we talk about real estate, and he decides to lend me that $50,000 I need for that same house. He gives me 25 for the purchase, 25 for the rehab, and the terms, down payment, interest rate,
It's all
time we
negotiable.
pay back, it's all negotiable. It's all between me and Danny. And that is a great way to do it, because a lot of times, most of the time, it is much cheaper and flexible than hard money. And there's just a ton of people out there. I mean, anyone can be a hard money lender. I mean, I get money from, you can start with friends and family. You know, maybe your uncle has a 401k that he wants to move somewhere because he's not getting the return he wants.
Right.
If you can pay him more than his 401k is, and we won't get into the details of all the mortgage and all that stuff. But basically, it's a private money loan is a private one-on-one transaction, not with a huge institutional company that's policies and procedures. It's what works for you, Danny, what works for me.
We'll
Let's come
get
to
an
an
attorney
agreement.
and make it work.
Yep, and there is agreements and paperwork and stuff, but it's much easier, faster than a hard money loan, and especially a bank.
Yeah, especially it's faster if someone's done it before. If it's their first time being a hard money lender, like if it's your uncle or aunt or whoever.
Private money, I mean.
Yeah, sorry, private. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. It's the first time being a private money lender. It might be a process, but don't let that scare you though. I mean, you know, obviously have these conversations ahead of time. You know, tell them, you know, hey, I'm getting into real estate. This is the model, right? You know, this is what I'm intending to do. It's really easy for people to understand flipping a house. And hey, I just need some money to flip a house. I'm going to make money on it, and I'll gladly, you know, pay you a great rate, you know, just for giving me the money to do it. And if shit goes south, you keep the house and all the work I've done to it. And you can, I know you, so you know where I live, and you can come find me for the money.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of, so I mean, hard money lending is just, you know, numbers, asset based. Private money lending, a lot of times is trust, relationship based. So it's like, okay, me and Danny are buddies. He knows even if the deal goes bad for whatever reason and I lose money on it, I'm going to pay him back.
Right.
So that's kind of the difference there, and they both have different rates and advantages and disadvantages. But ultimately, in my opinion, you want to get to private money. You want to make those connections and relationships and not have to use hard money for everything.
Yeah, and it's all situational, right? You know, there's for some deals, depending on, you know, who's willing to lend on what, you know, there might be some hard money lenders that'll give you really good deals. Sometimes private's the way to go. It's all situational, but it's good to have both in your tool belt for sure.
And you can blend them too.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
a lot of people that get the hard money loan. You know, if you're doing a lot of volume, I know people are doing 10 flips a month. They get hard money for the main, but the hard money lender still requires 10% down, so they'll get private money on that 10% for 10 houses a month. So it just depends where you're at, but like you said, it's all situational. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, but I would definitely like to have the option to do both.
So why would we, you know, we talked about with House Act, and we talked about a higher leverage loan. We talked about with, you know, using, you know, hard money or private money. You know, why aren't we just saving up our cash and doing it all ourselves? Because, you know, now we have some cash in the bank. We could do a lot of these deals ourselves. Why don't we still? Like, why? I mean, there's situations for both, but why would we even think about using a loan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, definitely, I mean, that's one of the best parts of real estate is you get to leverage an asset. I mean, you can buy something for 10 times more than what you put down on it. So you get the advantages of being able to go faster. So,
Right.
I mean, it would take a long time to save up 50 to 100 grand for the average person and then buy another house in cash and then fix it up and then, you know, reaccumulate all that money to then go buy another. Unless you're doing a very high successful business or, you know,
Right.
something crazy. But for the normal average person, it's going to be very slow. It's going to be one house every couple years, maybe, type
Right.
of thing. And there's also tax advantages to putting leverage on it, which you don't get if you don't have a loan. So definitely speed and the tax advantages, and then just the mortgage pay down from the other. I mean, there's just, it's one of the biggest benefits to real estate that a lot of other asset classes don't have, like
Right.
stocks and, you know, being able to easily leverage it.
Yeah, leverage is key if you want to grow, grow faster. There's nothing wrong with doing cash on your own. Like there's a sense of stability and safety with having everything in cash. So there's nothing wrong with that. It speaks volume for sure. However, like as a younger investor, I would definitely vouch for, especially in a high inflationary environment. Inflation goes up, right? So your dollar's worth less and less, but you still owe the same amount of money with
Your payment's still the same.
Right, your payment's still the same, and your mortgage amount's still the same. Actually, it's going down. So in 10 years, they're going to tell you, oh, or in 30 years, let's call it. Oh yeah, you paid X amount of money in interest. Well, think about how that money really disappeared into thin air because of inflation anyways. So you look at the inflation rate versus your interest rate, I mean, it's pretty much free money anyways to begin with. So I wouldn't get too scared about taking on leverage for real estate as long as you're not overpaying for the asset.
And or over leveraging.
Yeah, or over leveraging without proper reserves, because that could go south. Obviously income producing real estate, definitely is a saving grace for a lot of people because it covers the loan, right? But that again, isn't guaranteed. It's a business that you have to, your customer has to be satisfied, and you have to have paying tenants every single month. So that's really big. It's really big. On house hacking, just to kind of circle back, and I'm kind of going off the rock here. I just thought something else when we talked about the leverage thing. So you can go from, so you could get say you want a rental portfolio. Let me restart that. Say you want a rental portfolio. You want that passive income, right? It's not, real estate's not passive, so don't think it's completely passive, but it's income, right? And it's recurring. So you could start with buying a duplex or a triplex. Let's call it a triplex, okay, with 3.5% down, say. So that's 3 units. Now, it's a primary residence, but you only have to live there for a year. So we glazed over this part of how you talked about how you did it multiple times. So you can't just like go and move into another property like that, okay? So you have to at least live there for a year based on the requirements of the loan, okay? So say then after that year, you move out and you need something a little bigger. You get a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, so you move into a duplex, okay? So that's, you can do it again, right? You can only have one FHA loan at a time. So for a personal, so say you have a wife or a girlfriend or whatever, they could do one. A way for you to do it though, you could start with 5% down, conventional, then do a 3.5% down FHA, and then in a year do it again and do a 15% down conventional. So you can get 3 properties, potentially, all 3 units, that's 9 units in 3 years that you could have.
And you can do it on up to 4 units.
Yeah, you can do it on up to 4 units, right?
Yeah, 3,
it can be up to 12.
You're at 12, and that's,
yeah.
I mean, very quick and solid and good fixed net on all of them. So it's, as long as you do not crazy overpay,
right,
it would be very tough to lose.
Yeah, very tough to lose. So I want to show you like the magnitude and the power in that strategy. So sorry, I kind of went off topic there, but I just want to slide that in because that's huge. I'll probably edit that back.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's like basically a lot what I did. Is I did a duplex, 3.5% down FHA. Then we did a triplex with my girlfriend at the time. She did 3.5% FHA, and then together we did this conventional 15% down on another duplex. But yeah, it's all still very good interest rate, 30-year fixed debt, and that's the big part. The other thing you can do is you can refinance out of your FHA loan eventually and get that back.
Use it again, or just you don't have to deal with FHA then.
Yep, and that's what I just did. That first duplex I house hacked, I just refinanced. Rates were lower then. I dropped my PMI because I had enough equity. The market went up. The tenant paid down my loan, so now I have a big equity spread in the property, which has made me think about selling as well. That's always another option.
Yeah.
To liquidate that equity.
Get some of that cash back.
Yep. But no, I just did a refi and lowered my payment by a bunch, so my cash flow is even better. I did start over that 30-year time frame, but that's okay because I don't really intend to have it, paid off.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely two different strategies to go there. Like, you could play the refinance game, keep pulling your cash out, hopefully rates stay low. But, the key there, is using the leverage appropriately, right? So you want to have enough equity to, as a buffer, in case the market does go down, you're never going to be underwater on your mortgage. So that's important, right? But, in addition to that, inflation's working for you if you have debt on the property, so you don't ever have to pay it off. But it is nice sometimes to lower how much debt your debt ratio essentially on the property is, your leverage ratio, because of the market upturns and downturns. And maybe it makes sense at some point in time to sell and pull that cash out. So it's just managing your portfolio appropriately is really what it boils down to.
And just your personal finances too. I mean, every situation is different. You should definitely have a good financial base and keep cash reserves no matter what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, that's big. It can be difficult.
Things do happen.
Things happen, and in the real estate world, it's a lot. You put it this way, you could wake up tomorrow and 3 of your tenants say, hey, the hot water tank busted and the roof's leaking and whatever. All this shit could happen tomorrow on all of we could have combined how many 30 some units, literally roofs caving, right? It's there's insurance and everything, but that's going to lower your income for a few months, you know what I mean? So it's important to have some sort of cash reserves set aside, or some safety net of some kind, right? Set aside to help protect you from those kind of downturns in your business. That's huge. That's huge. Well, what else? I think it was good stuff.
I think it was a good start.
I think it was a great start.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for watching this whole video. This is our first time doing anything like this, podcast like this. So if you interested in listening to more, like, subscribe. If it's on YouTube or whatever platform this ends up on, just reach out to us, and hope to see you again.
Thanks.
Cool, dude. That was good.